following presentation was recorded live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for the 22nd Annual International Association of Square Dance Callers. This is tape number 29, People Skills.
Stan, if you have some handouts, if you would hand some of your handouts to one of our people down here, they will go ahead and proceed to hand them out to our attendees, and then we'll put the additional handouts right by those of Mitch and myself. Pick a good hand. I think you got one right onto your left there. Terrific. We're going to start this off. This is the People Skills session at the 1995 CALLERLAB, and we're glad you came. I want to say first before we start that I do realize it is a little bit warm down here. If you feel like standing up, laying it down, moving around, fanning yourself, whatever you feel like doing to stay with us this afternoon, go ahead. We'd invite you to do that. We have lots of extra room, but unfortunately we don't have the ability to get extra air in here or anything, so if you need to walk out and stand in the doorway or whatever you need to do, that's okay. I'd like to start out this session. By the way, my name is Mike Seastrom, and it's nice to be moderator of this session. My wife Gail has wandered in and out, played that neat little practical joke on me, shook up the soda and handed it to her. Anyway, before we start here this afternoon, I have an exercise that I would like to do with everyone here. I want everybody, well, we'll wait until everybody comes in. We're handing out that last little bit of handouts. Maybe I'll start out with a little bit of introductions and on the members of our panelists today. Our first panelist is Mitch Blyth, and Mitch Blyth has been calling since 1974. He joined CALLERLAB in 1984. He's actively involved in the Manitoba Callers Association, which is the Eastern Division, and he has served on its executive in an executive capacity with that group. He's also chairman of the Public Relations Committee of CALLERLAB right now. He's actually the new chairman of the Public Relations Committee. He also serves on the RPM and the mainstream committees, and he and his wife Marcia run their own square dance programs in Winnipeg, and they teach, and Mitch teaches basic through A2 calling. Stan Burdick is chairman of the Caller Association Liaison Committee. He is also a member of the Board of Governors. He is a previous milestone recipient, longtime editor of American Square Dance magazine, has his own note service, Mike Side Management. He and his wife Kathy have been involved in square dancing for many, many years, and I don't think that they're strangers to probably anyone in this room. So, Mitch and Stan, it's nice to have both of you on the panel this afternoon. Thank you very much for coming out. There are handouts, and once again, if you need copies or extra copies, they're up here in front. We'll take any additional copies and we'll send them to the home office or put them up there in the registration area, and they'll be placed out in the exhibit area where I believe all the handouts from this convention or any remaining handouts are being placed, and then you can pick up those handouts at that time. As I said, I would like to start out the session on people skills with a small exercise, and it may take you standing up and moving around a little bit to do this, but I want to have everybody here find one other person real fast that you have not met before. You do not know their name, you're not familiar with them. If you have to get up and move toward them, this is only going to take about a minute of your time. You'll come right back to this spot, but I want everybody to get up, find one other person very quickly. Don't say too much to them, just find another person, and there you go, okay? Now, once you're with that person, I don't want anybody to talk or don't have to say anything. I just need your attention up here for a second. The reason why, you'll see after we finish this exercise, I want the person that's closest to the front here to be the speaker in that duo, and I want the person that's the other person to be the listener in that duo, okay? So everybody has any questions about who's the speaker and who's the listener, just make sure you got that situated now. Now, I want the speaker in that duo to tell the person that's the listener anything and everything about your all-time personal favorite dessert. Okay, I want you, anything you know about dessert, what flavor it is, what your grandmother used to do to it, or whatever, but I want you to take, and I'll say now, and I want you to start talking, and then I'll cut it off, and we'll switch roles. Okay, ready? Go. Tell them all about your favorite dessert. All right, time. Okay, I want everybody to stop talking, okay? Now I want this, we're going to reverse roles. The listener now is going to tell the person who is the speaker before. You'll just change, and the new speaker, once again, I want you to tell the other person about your all-time personal favorite dessert. Ready? Go. We're sorry those of you that just came are missing this. Anyway, time out. Okay. Everybody go back to your seat. Nod, smile, wave, go back to your seat. Very good. Now, to complete this exercise, and I know that this exercise is a little bit skewed because many of you have seen each other in the halls or may know each other casually, so this is not an ideal situation, but I want you, if you've got a pencil or paper or something to write on, write this down. If you don't, just think of this in your head. But I'm going to give you 18 adjectives, and I want you take 3 out of these 18 adjectives, and I want you to describe the personality of the person that you just talked to, okay? The first one is confident. The second one is assertive. Third one is outgoing, and you don't have to write all these down. Just think and write the 3 down, okay? As we go along. Outgoing, impulsive, easygoing, thoughtful, organized, honest, diligent, friendly, serious, concise, intelligent, shy, precise, caring, decisive, or bright. For those 18 adjectives, and don't labor on them or anything, just write down the 3 that you'd think, or if you're not writing it down, just put it in your mind how you describe this person, okay? At this point, we could have you go back and share these adjectives with this person and tell them why, but for purposes of moving along with the session, I want you to think about what we've just done and realize notice that in 15 seconds, this is all you guys talk to each other, in 15 seconds, you're all ready to completely analyze and describe what the other person is all about. These are pretty strong adjectives. They're very descriptive adjectives. And the conclusion here is first of all, we size people up that we meet very, very quickly. Less than a minute, less than a quarter of a minute. And they do the same thing about us. The second conclusion is this judgment comes from specific, isolatable, and controllable ways we communicate, both in the words that we choose and also in our nonverbal, the way we stand. I think if some of you will stop and think, if one of those adjectives was easygoing, for instance, it may be the way the person was just standing there, very easy, just fluid, and just telling you what they liked about chocolate cake and the way they described it. If some of you have chosen precise, I'm sure you can just think to yourself that person was very precise in every little detail about their dessert and what they liked about it. They knew every little thing. And those kind of things, the way we talk, the words we choose, and our nonverbal messages that we send help size each other up. I think that each of us are personally and totally in charge of the image we present. In other words, I think often the way we stand, I think often the words we choose we have somewhat of a control over those. And also the last conclusion I'd like to make is that the way that we communicate helps people decide whether they want to cooperate with you, whether they want to help you, or whether they want to join your group. And I think this is a very, very powerful thing to know as square dance callers, because first of all, when you're on the stage, when you first start your evening out, you're sized up very, very quickly by the way you stand, by your nonverbal communication, by a smile on your face, by a frown on your face, by a hand on your pocket, by the way your position of your legs, by the position of your arms. They size you up very quickly. Even if it's before the dance, the way you may be standing and talking to a group of people or sitting in a corner very quietly watching everybody come in. They size us up very quickly in the things about us. As an instructor in a square dance class, the same thing occurs. Even as people in your club that are your recruiters, on the first night of class, they're sizing up everybody in your group as to, are they friendly? Are they outgoing? Do they seek us out? There's a number of things that affect our retention and our recruitment of our dancers. And so part of this reviving in 95, and particularly this particular session, is to focus in on some of these people skills that allow us to succeed and allow some people to cooperate with us and help us. Mitch is going to talk about the first session here, and so I'll let Mitch go on from here. And Mitch?
Thank you. Good exercise. I'm going to use that down the road. we got real organized for this, and I mean that sincerely. We did. Mike did an excellent job. Basically, I don't know how he was with Stan, but he wanted us to come up with one thing to talk about with the activity and run with that. And what he wanted me to look at was recruitment. All right, because that's part of what we've been talking about is we've got to recruit new people for square dancing. And I guess the big thing is before we enter them into lessons or before we get them doing mainstream plus and everything else, we've got to get them there. Okay? How you handle yourself is going to determine how successful you will be with your recruitment practices. And you can apply this all over. This is for the shopping mall. This is for the one-night stand at a small or large gathering. It can be a church function where you're going in for the men's club on the Sunday morning after church, and you're going to give them, you're going to give the couples there a little bit of taste of square dancing. It can be at the open house at your club after you've done your recruiting in the malls and that, and you get the people to your club. How you react to them, appear to them, does have it does have a bearing on how your keep-drop ratio is going to be. Okay? I hear a lot of people say, man, I never lose anybody. Obviously, they have to have good people skills. Okay? What are people skills? Everything is a people skill. The tough part is nailing down what you want to talk about, and I'm going to give it to you on the slant of a salesman, because that's what I do at home. I'm a salesman. Okay? I'm not a teacher. I'm not a dentist. I'm not a... Well, Stan does everything. But what don't you do? So anyway, I got a handout there, and let's just look at the handout that we gave to you. It starts off with communication. You've got to sell yourself first. If the people don't like you, they won't buy from you. Okay? We get used to, as callers, talking to people, not with people. All right? A lot of callers aren't friendly people. When they get a hold of just a dancer coming up to them, they're trying to get their message across of how great square dancing is to the people, but they're telling them the wrong way. They're telling them. They're not talking to them about the activity. If they're comfortable with you when you're talking to them, they're going to catch everything you're saying. But if you're overbearing and coming down on this person and beating them into the ground, you've lost it right there. You've lost that person. Okay? And with my profession, it's no different when I'm selling mirrors or glass or windows to people as it is when I'm selling them square dancing. Because I'm selling them something. First thing I'm selling is myself. Then I'm selling the activity. The activity could be great and all these super points, but if they don't like you, they aren't going to join the activity. Because they're aware you're the leader. You're the one that's going to teach them. You're their leader. And the unfortunate thing is if you're in a shopping mall, for instance, let's use that example, and a person walks up and you hit them with this overbearing personality thing, and they just kind of turn away and go, wow, and leave. Chances are they're never going to talk to anybody else about square dancing. And that's a person we've driven away. They're gone. 90% of those people will never join the activity, and you know what? The unfortunate thing about that is they all have friends. And what they're going to do is they're going to relate to their friends their experience, good or bad. And if we can eliminate that, then that's going to help our activity in a lot of ways. So you got to remember, don't talk down to people. Talk with them. Okay? Listening skills is the next I have listed. Before you try and sell, listen first to find out what your recruit is after. The person you're talking to cost may not be a factor to them. Therefore, don't waste your time telling them how cheap it is. But the person may be in Alcoholics Anonymous. If you find out they don't drink, hey, square dancing is a great activity. We don't drink at square dances. Okay? The next guy you're talking to might be a guy that likes going out to the bar a lot and everything else. You don't want to get him into that situation at the start. But if you listen to the person long enough, you're going to pick up what they're after. once you find out what they're after, you can zero in on it from that point. Okay, so that's your skill, listening. Listen to the people. Listen first, sell second. Okay? Enthusiasm. How many of you have gone to talk to someone about it and it's kind of like, yeah, I'm a square dance caller. Gee, it's a great activity. We really have a lot of fun. Meet once a week and we get together, and they're really good people. You going to buy from me? Are you? What if I say, hey, I'm a square dance caller. We have a great time. Man, we have so much fun at our club. We meet once a week. Super people. We get together for 2.5 hours. Have a great time. You should try it. Hey, the guy's going to think, hey, this guy's excited about it. Must be something to it. Okay? Again, get excited when you're talking to people about square dancing. That's your enthusiastic level. Okay? You should never, ever talk boringly about our activity to anybody. Because if you aren't excited, they won't get excited. And if they aren't excited, they probably aren't going to come out. That kind of ties into attitude. Because it's your attitude. Your attitude will cause a reaction from the people. If you stand there and you're kind of down about it and everything else, and they're looking at you thinking, man, this activity can't be a lot of fun because this guy sure isn't too excited about it. But if you're up and giving her and you look good and you're excited, it causes a reaction within those people. And what you're going to remember when you're talking to these people, Mike hit it on the head, the first 15 seconds you're selling yourself. That's the first 15 seconds. So if you kind of look a little sloppy and walk up to someone and you're kind of looking down when you're talking and you're explaining to them what the benefits of square dancing are, but you're telling them what the benefits of square dancing are in a monotone, that person after that first 15 seconds he's gone. That customer is gone. Forget it. Okay? Patience. How many times have you been in a situation where you're recruiting and someone has said something about square dancing that's not true? The old, we're in the barn. Yeah, I saw an ad for square dancing on TV the other night. Showed the fiddle in the barn with the hay. And immediately, as soon as you hear that, your blood is starting to boil. You're thinking, God, here we go again. Don't lose your cool. Handle the situation. And that's the toughest thing to do in the world, because maybe you know, a lot of you have jobs. You've been working all day. You've had a rough day at work. You go out, you're doing a demo, and then this one guy comes up, and the guy looks like a jerk. You can tell that when the guy's walking up because you're sizing him up too. And this guy lays on you this thing about the barn and the straw and everything else, and you're thinking, I want to give it to him. Back off. Cool down. Let your patience kick in. Talk to the guy. Again, don't talk down to him. Talk with him. If you talk to him long enough and right, you can talk him out of it. Because all you got to do is start saying, well, no, there's no barn involved. Where'd you see this? Oh, there's no barn. We don't even have any hay at our dances. There's no horses. And if you keep calm, he's going to stay calm. You lose your cool, he's going to lose his cool too. At two, you're going to be at each other. I guarantee you won't get that guy into square dancing. Chances are you won't anyway, but at least he won't walk away mad at you, bad-mouthing our activity. You've given him some information and maybe he will tell someone else. Now, there's no barns in square dancing. I asked a guy. Okay? And the last one comes into all of them. Professionalism. That's one thing that we've always got to be, is professional. Because you're not only representing yourself or your square dance club, you're representing CALLERLAB, you're representing square dancing across the world, and it's a big responsibility. And if you're not going to be professional when you're promoting your activity and talking about your activity and recruiting for your activity, then you should start bowling. Okay? Because we are all professionals, are we not? Right? Are we? Are you? Good. Are you? Enthusiasm. That's one of the big things we're missing though, is enthusiasm with the whole thing. I've talked to a few people this weekend, and we're kind of getting off topic here, but we're on topic but off. No one's enthusiastic. Have you noticed that? I've talked to a few people in the hallway, and it's like, oh man, things are so down in my area. God, there's no dancers coming out. The clubs are getting smaller. I'm thoroughly depressed when I walk away. And I don't think that's why we're all here, to depress each other. I think what you got to do is, let's get our enthusiasm level up. Let's talk about the positives of square dancing. We're working in our area, and it's coming around. RPM committee is doing fabulous things. It's coming around. Square dancing is not dying. We're just kind of in a slow period right now. We're going to be fine, though. And I think if as leaders, if we walk in and start promoting it, using our people skills, which we all have, some of us have people skills we don't even realize we have. Okay? You're all salesmen. Go out and sell. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. Nice hand for Mitch Blyth. Mitch? Stan is going to cover some topics that I think will lead perfectly into a discussion period immediately after. And so, Stan, if you don't mind, I'm going to leave you to the last one, because I think it'll help with questions. And by the way, I might say anytime you have questions or comments through this particular session, if you want to just raise your hand and please talk on the mic, because we want to put this on the tape, it would be most helpful. I have no problem with that. Yes?
Yes, I'm Bruce Simpers from Maryland, and I have a question for Mitch. On the salesmanship where you're trying to get the person to agree with you a number of times before selling them, does that tend to work, or is this a high-pressure sales tactic?
High pressure is not what you want.
But in that trying to get them to ask questions to get a positive answer back, because the telephone calls or whatever, they try to get you to say yes, yes, I agree with this, yes, until they got you where they want you to actually buy something.
Well, every situation's different, okay? Because everybody's got a different personality. After the first go around, you can tell whether you've got a chance with this guy or not. I mean, I've had a situation where we have to agree to disagree. Okay? The worst thing you can do is continue arguing with someone about it. In fact, you should never argue with them, period. It's not an argument. It's just that, well, you know, I think you could be on the slightly incorrect side of wrong, or whatever. And come up with something real creative. Make up a line that's real creative. Inject humor in right away. Okay? And the reason I use that example is I think it's something we've all run into, because even today, some of the commercials on TV, when they square dancing is part of the product they're selling, they show the fiddles and clogging or whatever, and here we go. Okay, put us back another 50 years. So what I always try and do is I always avoid a confrontation. You talk to them. If you know it's going nowhere, you politely excuse yourself and you move on.
But one of the things with this asking them questions to try to get a positive response, you're trying in a subtle way to persuade them that, yeah, maybe something might be nice about it.
Exactly. That's why when you're saying, what are you looking for? You know, you say, what are you looking for? And the guy says, well, you know, I finally went to AA last year. Hey, square dancing, we don't drink at square dances. There's no alcohol. Really? Or, geez, my wife and I are having I want something that my wife and I can do together. Hey, perfect. Okay? And I've had all these responses thrown at me. You don't pull out the 50 questions and start saying, okay, number 1, do you want? Number 2, do you want? It's a casual conversation thing. You start with the person and then you say, well, what are you looking for? You know, the guy may be saying, I hate bowling. I said, well, we've got a good activity. It's good, clean, fun activity. It's healthy for you. The guy may say, I got a bit of a heart problem. Well, we've got research that shows from the Mayo Clinic that it's healthy for you. Okay? It's you roll with what's happening is all I can really say. I don't know if I answered it.
You know, I think it's interesting, because what I'm hearing here is a technique that is possibly a technique for closing a sale, like you were giving the example over a telephone, where I think you're trying to close the conversation and close the sale down. And what Mitch is saying is that if you listen to what their needs are, or probe for their needs, if you're recruiting somebody for square dancing, and Mitch was saying capitalize on that. If they're having a heart problem, they may raise that as an objection to what they're not getting into square dancing. And Mitch is saying, by the way, you know, this is one of the best things for people that have had heart problems to be involved in, the square dancing. And you're right in the sense where you can say to someone, would you like something where you can exercise? And they would say yes. And you'd like something that you could do with your wife? And they'd say yes. And you'd say, well, square dancing is perfect. So you're talking about the same process here.
Different selling technique.
A different technique, but yours is probably on the end of it, on the closing end of it, where Mitch is talking about get to know that person first and listen to that person and see what their needs are. And I think the same thing goes with class. As people are in your class and you're talking to them, you haven't quite got them as a square dancer yet. They may be kind of enjoying themselves, but they're not totally sold. We lose a lot of people through the course of class and in that transition to club. And I think the thing is to talk to these people, find out their needs. By the way, we're looking for something that we can. My wife and I really enjoy picnics. Well, our club's having a picnic next week. We'd love to have you. It's a potluck, so why don't you bring something? Oh, we love potlucks. It's finding the needs of the people we're working with, and I think Mitch is right in the sense of listening to them and determining what their needs are and fulfilling those needs as well. So good point brought up. Very good. I think the handout that Mitch had was excellent in listing some things that we're talking about as people skills. I personally don't think people skills are something that you just overnight have. I think throughout our life we develop those people skills. We develop those techniques that allow us to listen attentively to other people, to allow us to control the way that we project ourselves as people and as callers and as representatives of square dancing. It also allows us to project ourselves with confidence, which is another feature that is so helpful in people skills. I wanted to talk about some of the basic traits of positive people because I think being a positive person as a square dance caller or as a square dance leader is one of the biggest pluses that you can have. It will enable you to go a lot farther, to achieve a lot more of what you want to achieve. And I think that there's the first point that I made here was projecting positive expectations. I think this is a point that Mitch alluded to very often when you read square dance magazines and you talk to square dance leaders from their area or even square dancers. They're in a real down cycle. And projecting a positive expectation is something we need to do as leaders to make people want to join us, to make people want to stay with us. I think if you had a new dancer and I got a brand new magazine, and every magazine, in the square dance magazine that is, had a negative article about square dancing, I'd really be taken down or set back a little bit by that. I think, boy, do we really want to join this activity? So I think this is one area that we can change to promote the upside of what we do and all the fun that we do have. So projecting positive expectations is focusing on what is right and what can be done and not on what is wrong and what we can't do or what we've tried before and it hasn't worked. Let's go on. There's abundance of scientific research that says people who act, speak, and talk in a positive way are healthier, they live longer, they're subject to far fewer emotional problems, they sell more in the case of salesmen, they get higher grades, those people that are in schools, that are more excited about what they're doing, and they experience far more of what they want in their life. And I think that's a quality that is just being a positive person. Many of us will get up on the wrong end of the bed or get up on the other end of the bed, and almost you have to kick yourself in the morning and get going and get some positive motion. And I think those of us that deal with people on a daily basis, and indeed we do as square dance callers deal with people, have to kind of sometimes kick ourselves a little bit to stand up, take a deep breath, clear our eyes out, and straighten up and get our posture going and get ready to go out and do what we do. And I think that's an important quality of projecting a positive expectation or a positive side. Mahatma Gandhi said a few days before his assassination, and I'm kind of turning this around so it's more of the language we can understand, but he said, keep your words positive, for your words become your behaviors. Keep your behaviors positive, because your behaviors become your habits. Keep your habits positive, because your habits become your values. And keep your values positive, because your values become your destiny. I think if you think about something very simple with just our words and how our words eventually become our behaviors and how those behaviors of being positive and being excited about what we do eventually become our habit. Every time you walk into that square dance hall or you're dealing with square dance people, you're up, you're positive, your posture's there, you're excited about what you're doing, and those habits become positive. They eventually become our values and what we stand for. And eventually that positive aspect and what we've put together with just simple words becomes our destiny. And I think it's an interesting thing that can apply to us. So anyway, the conclusion of that first point is that our words can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Just simple words. In square dancing, we need to focus on what is right with our activity and what can be done to enhance it, not what is wrong and what we've tried before, but let's look up. Let's look up. The second point of a positive person is to give credit where credit's due, to recognize the hard work of those people around us and recognize the good planning that they do and not just pass it off on luck. I'm sure you can maybe think of a instance where something has gone real good for a club member, and the president will say, well, that was just luck. We just lucked out. We had a good anniversary dance, and I think things just came together, and it was lucky. But if you stop and you think about the people that did the decorations and the people that did the food and the people that did the publicity, it wasn't luck. It was some hard work and some good planning. And I think once again we need to, as people, give credit where credit's due. As callers, if you have people in your group that's working for you, make sure you recognize these people, both on a personal basis and both to everybody else over the microphone. Thank Bill and Gene for doing all the refreshments, and thank so-and-so for putting the decorations. And weren't they terrific? And give credit to our people, because it puts them in a light, it puts them in a positive note, it gives them recognition that they deserve, and people like that recognition, and it ties them into your group. And I think that's one of the important things we as callers should not forget. It's a people skill. It's something that if we make a regular habit of it, it's going to, or start a practice of it, it'll become a habit, and I think it's going to help us in the long run. Many times in an effort to be humble, we pass off successes as luck. And I think that one of the sayings that I like to allude to is, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. And that's the bottom line of luck. If people work, and it's hard work and planning. Sometimes we do get lucky, and I don't think there's anything wrong with being humble and not jumping all over credit and such, but I think that we need to realize and give credit where credit's due. The third positive people skill is rebounding from setbacks and seeking solutions. I think there's 3 words that hits home with me regarding setbacks and regarding an event that just doesn't go right. And the 3 words are, get over it. If you walk into a hall and you're expecting 20 squares and there's 2, get over it. Set your stuff up, pretend you got 20 squares out there. Get over it. Those 2 squares that are your dance are people that have come. They're the people that are there. They're not the 18 squares that aren't there. They're the people that are there for your dance, and they're paying you that compliment. You call to them like there's 20 squares out there. And those people are going to walk away, and they're going to tell 18 squares of people who are not there that they missed one hell of a dance. And I think that's the kind of attitude we have to have. Don't waste energy on things you can't change. If you're standing up all night long and you're fretting about something, or you're fretting about the size of the class, or you're fretting to the people that are promoting the class that we didn't do this and we didn't do that, you're wasting energy. Get over it. Let's go on, see what we can do next, and what needs to be done to go on, what you can do to enhance things. Look at setbacks as challenges. And I think or as problems, as a challenge. And I think even just changing that terminology, instead of saying, you have dancers that come up to you and they'll say, we really have a problem here. You say, no, we have a challenge here. Let's look what we can do about this. And I think that's the important thing. Don't waste your time on what's happened, but start from here, get over it, and let's go on and look for some solutions. The fourth positive people trait I want to allude to is encouraging cooperations. I think that when you positively communicate with others, you bring out the best of the people that you work with. Now, all of us know people that have a way of motivating people to do whatever they want to do. We know square dance leaders, we know probably people in our business that just have a way of talking to people, and they can get those people to almost follow in any way they want, and it's amazing. Well, that kind of behavior has been analyzed to some extent, and I think one of the best ways that you can get people to go the extra mile for you is to pay them a sincere and an unexpected compliment. Pay them a sincere and unexpected compliment. The other thing is to call them by their name. And I think one of the things that is so important in this activity is that we wear badges. And many of us have gotten real good at finding badges and finding names. And people like the sound of their name. Use their names. Now, there's some of the best callers and square dance leaders that we have today in square dancing are people that are just great with names. And I think it's a skill that if you don't have, you ought to be working on it. I know that if you do a festival or you do a weekend and you have a list of everybody's there, boy, it doesn't take but a little bit of time to sit down and look over that list a little bit and just match people's faces with names, and I know callers that make little games out of their names so that they remember their names. There's a lot of memory techniques for learning names, and if you haven't made yourself available to some of the tapes and some of the information that's out there regarding memory, you might do so. There's some great material out there that you can listen to on your car on the way to a dance, but learning and remembering names is terrific. I know a caller that will run a week at a square dance camp, and by the end of the first day, actually by the end of the second day, he'll know everybody's name in that camp, and he does it naturally. He's got that kind of memory. But it's amazing the closeness that man has with his group, because he knows everybody's name by the second day, and from the microphone he can talk to them and call them by name, and it's a neat skill to have. So I think that's important, and it encourages cooperation, and it encourages people to come with you. There's a story that I like to tell. We were out for breakfast after a square dance. After a square dance event one time, it was quite late, and the waitress came up to us, and she kind of threw things on the table, and she was really in one of those grumpy moods, and one of the guys in our group looked at her and said, "You know, those are terrific earrings you have on." And she kind of perked up and stood up and looked back at him. She said, well, why, thank you. And of course her name and her badge became immediately exposed, and her name was Jennifer. And he said, "Jennifer, we'd all love coffee around here." She says, "I'll be right back." And she walked right off, and here was a gal that just threw the things on the table. I thought, oh boy, we're never going to get through. And all of a sudden came this sincere and very unexpected compliment, and bam, she was right there. And that lady, because it was toward the end of the evening, made sure that our coffee cups were filled. We had extra bacon. Oh, by the way, here's some extra toast. I mean, all of a sudden, all this service, and she was right there with us, and she got a great tip that evening. So if you doubt me, think about the next time you're in a restaurant and you get that kind of service from a waiter or a waitress. Try that very same thing, and you'll be amazed at how you can turn around a behavior just like that. Pay them a compliment, call them by their name, make it fun, and all of a sudden that person will turn right around for you. I think one of the best ways to get someone to go out of their way to help you is to recognize and let them know that they're better at doing something than you are. There's an old saying that every man is my superior in one way or another, and from that I learned from him. And I think with regarding our business, if you want someone to go out of your way with you, recognize the people in your group, for instance, that are good at recruiting, that are great at doing decorations. You might have a couple or two that they're neat at the arts, crafts stuff, and give them that job. Tell them, you are so good at putting these decorations up and thinking of the themes, and it's incredible. Recognize that, and you're going to get those people to come along with you. So those are the kind of things that we can do, people skills, to help people cooperate with us and help them to move on. The other thing is the next trait that I wanted to isolate was to speak and act decisively. Avoid wallowing in indecision, and act positively on one of the things that need to be done. One of the greatest causes of personal unhappiness is indecision. This is a thing that just hits home with me a lot, and I think that if you're a positive person and you're using words and phrases that are direct and to the point, you can make a difference instead of wallowing around on a long way decision. Well, if you'd like to, Jane, I'd really like you to do the refreshments next week. Maybe you could bring some cake or anything you want if you could. Get right to the point. Say, Jane, you do a terrific job with refreshments. I love your cake. Could you bring a cake next week? Bam. You don't have to wallow around in the way. So your words you choose and the fact that you're decisively and you're right there with the persons or with the people you're talking to will seek out their cooperation in a rapid manner. By adopting a positive attitude and assuming that others will work with you, assuming that they'll work with you, 95% of the time they will. They'll cooperate with you. You can say, Jim, I know I can count on you to help me move these tables out of here. Or if you're carrying your equipment out and there's the last guy walking out the door, you can say, hey, Bill, I know I can count on your muscles here. Come on, bring your muscles up here and help me out. You can help him usually carry your equipment out or help that last thing. I know all of us have been in that position. So those kind of compliments, those kind of people skills can help us along. Number 6 is to be reliable and accept responsibility. I think if you carry out your commitments and you don't pass the buck along and you're dependable in what you promise to do, you're going to go a lot longer way or a lot farther way with people. I think, have you ever heard someone say, I'll try to make it, or I'll try to be there? in your own vocabulary, as a leader, it's my opinion that it's best to get rid of the word try. I think in the words of, who is it, Yoda, the Jedi Master, he said, do or do not. There is no try. The other thing about the word try is it's a noisy way of not doing something. Try means that you might get there. Well, I'm sure you've asked someone to do something. They say, well, I'll try to do that. And then they don't do it, and you say, well, Jim, I thought you were going to do that. Well, you said, no, I didn't say I'd do it. I said I'd try. So as a leader, lose that word try and be cued off on that word try when somebody says they're going to try. Say, no, can I count on you to do that? Get a commitment. Well, I'll try. No, but I mean, can you help me out with this? Get a commitment, and I think you got a much better chance of having something done. Okay? Positive people do what they do and do what they say they're going to do, and they accept the leadership role. And I think we can do that just in the simple words we use. So, by the way, lose that word try. Okay? Speaking of being positive, it reminds me of a story of a gal who was learning to parachute. She was learning to skydive. And she wanted to do this. Her whole life she thought about being someone who could jump out of an airplane with a parachute. So she thought, I'm going to be positive about this. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to learn to do this, and I'm going to jump. So she went through the ground school. She learned everything, and the things that she had to learn was that the short cord on the right was the cord that you pull, and that's the one that releases your main chute. And in case you have any problems, you got a longer cord on the left that's down here a little bit lower, where you got an emergency chute there. You pull that emergency chute there. And so when she got those two things down in ground school, she went up in the airplane, and she's standing there at the door, and the instructor is right behind her, and he's reiterating all these things about the fact that, remember, your chute on your right, you count to 10 first, okay? Clear the plane, count to 10, you pull the cord on your right, and that opens your main chute. And if for any reason that chute doesn't open up, there's that one on the left, pull that, that's your emergency chute. And he said, by the way, down below, we've got a truck, it'll pick you up, okay, when you're down on the ground down there. So she stood there at the door, she took a deep breath, she thought, I'm going to be positive, I'm going to be positive. She leaped out the door, she counted 10, 3, 5, 8, 9, 10. She thought, I got my cord on the right, and she pulled the cord on the right. Nothing happened. She said, no, I'm going to be positive. She pulls it again, nothing happens. She thought, that's okay, I'm going to be positive. She thought about that cord on her left, she pulled that cord on her left. Nothing happened. She said, I'm not going to panic. Pull that cord on her left again. Nothing happened. She says, I'm not going to panic. I know that truck is going to be down the ground to pick me up. The fact is that she's positive about what's happening here. And that's an important, maybe not in her case, but that's an important, that's right, pull both. But it's an important quality to have. Maybe not the perfect analogy, but once again, pick up or scraper, yeah. Anyway, the seventh thing that I wanted to bring up was to be considerate of others. That's on your handout there. I think we need to be considerate of others and be considerate to other people's needs. We need to apologize when we're wrong. We need to remember to say thank you to people, and we need to remember to use their names. I think these things aren't new. You learned them in kindergarten. You learned them in Sunday school and Cub Scouts. Never take people for granted. It's very easy in our activity, and even in an association like this, to take people for granted. Positive people recognize others freely. They freely give praise, and they graciously correct those people that are in error. There's a nice way to agree with someone or disagree with them in a way that is not offensive to them. And there's no reason that in an activity like ours that we have to go to battle with people. We can find a way to diplomatically get around a situation that doesn't bring up combat. I think Mitch alluded to that when he was talking. You don't have to argue with the person. There's a way to get around it, and when you figure that the people or the customers in our activity are coming here because they want to be here, they're coming in here because they enjoy this activity, it's their recreation, there's no reason to be confrontational. The last point that I like to make is to share your pride and your enthusiasm. Your energy rubs off, and as Mitch alluded to, that kind of energy and that kind of enthusiasm makes others want to join us and be involved. Enthusiasm breeds enthusiasm. The last point that I'd like to make here is to remember that life is not a dress rehearsal. The opportunity to say or to do things sometimes only happens once. So share that pride, share that enthusiasm, compliment others, be a people person. And it's not something that you're going to pick up overnight, but it's something that as you work on it and you work on it, it's going to pay great dividends for you, for your club, and for square dancing in your area. Be a leader, be enthusiastic, be positive, and it'll pay positive dividends to you. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Stan. Stan, you want to carry on from here? All right. Thank you. Anybody, any questions about? All right, Stan?
No, this is fine. Okay. Yeah. We have a little arrangement here. I'm going to take exactly 15 minutes, and because that's what Mike said we could have, and Mitch is going to nudge me once, and he'll nudge me harder if I begin to go over that, okay? That still leaves time for us to do some discussion at the end, and so let's begin. My part of this people skill thing is to talk a little bit about club problems, club conflicts. You have to use a lot of skill sometimes. You have to know something about how people react, and that's what we're going to investigate a little bit here today. I think one of the problems today is with dwindling numbers in some of our groups, and also sometimes people don't want to take leadership roles as quickly. We have to be extra skillful in using our ability to allay these forces. Callers are leaders. First of all, we must remember that callers are leaders, and as leaders, every caller facing some of these problems in the club needs to increase skills to cope with these problems. So let's take a look at leadership first, and take just a kind of definition of leadership. And I think one of the best examples, one of the best definitions of leadership that I ever heard is a leader is an enabler. That's a nice word. A leader is an enabler. Leaders get people to do things that they didn't know they could do, maybe they didn't want to do, through various methods. And leaders are facilitators, okay? That's another good word. In business, you've heard a manager, a good manager, wears a scowl on the brow of his associate. Have you heard that? Think about it. What we mean to say there is that he passes on responsibility, doesn't try to do it all himself, and he passes on these assignments and gets others to help him. You know, part of the problem in our clubs today, sometimes part of the skirmishes and things that happen within the clubs, is that somebody tries to do it all themselves, and he and she just get bogged down, and they haven't learned the little techniques that maybe we can show them on how to pass on responsibility to others. So a caller leader needs to be strongly motivated. We've mentioned that before. Enthusiasm is contagious. We've said that. Along with enthusiasm comes a good sense of humor, and these two ingredients are probably the most important thing you can have. Enthusiasm, you see we're repeating that again, and motivation, and then of course humor. I want to tell you a little story about a tightrope walker. I understand that over Niagara Falls they had stretched a cable, and this smallish man stood there with a wheelbarrow. Can you picture the scene? Stood there ready to go across the cable with this wheelbarrow. And he said to everybody, he said, I'm going to do this. Here, I've got it all ready to go. I'm going across Niagara Falls in this wheelbarrow, pushing this wheelbarrow right across. And all of the crowd assembled yelled to him, said, don't do it. You're going to kill yourself. Don't do it. Please, please, it's not worth it. Your life is worth more than that. And he said, isn't there one man, isn't there one person that will be positive about this and tell me I can do it? And one man finally stood up, and he said, yes, I'm sure you can do it. I know you can do it. And so the tightrope walker turned to him and said, you're the guy I've been looking for. Get in the wheelbarrow. You've heard it. Okay. So enthusiasm, humor, how vital they are. Now, let's talk about the different kinds of leaders there are. And we as leaders now, we can put ourselves in the categories. First of all, there are passive leaders. There are ones who are just listeners, sympathizers, non-action takers, okay? Now, are you this second person? Are you an active leader? Those who jump in, take action, assist where you can possibly help the situation, okay? Or are you third? This needs a little explanation. A benevolent dictator. Okay? Now think about it. Some people say, hey, that's an oxymoron. You know, it's a two-sided thing. It's reversals. No, it's not. You can be a benevolent dictator, and the point is that you have goals and you express those goals. Hopefully you get the group to go along with those goals, and if you can get approval from the group, this is what you say. You're positive. You say, we can do these things. We've established the goals. We can do it. And that's somewhat of a big dictator, but you're doing it in a benevolent way. And that's really an ideal type leader that can do that. And there may be few and far between, but it's certainly a good thing for us to search towards. You know, there are times when each of us think about the problems in the club and what can we do. And I think here another word that comes into the picture is empathy. Okay? If the problem seems to be between two people, get those two together. And you as a mediator, okay, remember that little rule. Get those two people together somehow or other and be a mediator, and start with questions that produce yes answers. Okay? Gently lead them into answering yes to questions around the vital subject of dispute, and then gradually you work into the heart of that dispute until you begin to work the mythology that you're working on, okay? It's a psychological concept. I want you to think about it, but yet it's very, very clear that that's the way. And you do the same thing with a group, too, if you can possibly if the two factions together. Let's say a dancer walks up to you and says, I don't like your calling. Now, your first reaction, to hell with you, Buster. Okay? First reaction. But thereby you close the door to any further discussion. How much better to swallow hard and ask why? Okay? It's a tough thing to do. It takes guts. But on the other hand, then you've opened the door to discussion, and maybe you're going to be the smarter one, and he's not going to lose face and lose his discussion with you. You may end up being friends, hopefully, and you've learned a lot in the process. Years ago in a Midwestern city, a true story, two disgruntled factions of square dancing. And the Square Dance Council, that night with 30 representatives, were ready to fight this battle of what will we do, this crucial situation, what can we do with it? Well, now, a very smart leader, the council president, stood up there and he said, indulge me just for a minute or two. And there was a blackboard behind him. And he drew a line up and down the center of that blackboard. And on the left-hand side, he put a big plus, okay? And on the right-hand side, up the top, he put a big minus. He said, now, before we get to the problem, just give me 10 minutes. He said, let's ask you people, what are the benefits that you've had out of square dancing? Well, now, you know, they say, hey, what's a big idea? We want to talk about the problem. We're here to do battle on this problem. And gradually, one by one, they stood up and said, yeah, you know, my husband was a bowler, and he bowled every night in the week. I never saw him. Now we're into square dancing. We have a great time together. And it was just one. And somebody else licked a problem with a personal problem because of square dancing. And again, people began to raise their hand, and they mentioned, and he put all these down on the plus side of the board. And then it changed the whole mood of the group. And this is a true story, folks. I'm not making this up. So he said, okay, let's get to the negatives. Who can think of some of the things that you don't like about square dancing that have been problems? And they couldn't think of any real easy. And finally, he said, okay, let's get to the problem that we have tonight. And do you know something? In 10 minutes, they solved that difficult problem with that group. I can tell you what the problem was, but I won't take time right now. But it happened, and they got rid of that problem in 10. And you know, if this had been different, suppose he had started, that sharp leader up front, started with the idea, hey, let's head right into this problem tonight. There might not be square dancing in that area right now, because it was such a crucial thing that they had to solve that night. Okay, now, in matters of conflict, somehow we need to be catalytic agents to produce win-win results. Nobody should totally lose, although some can win more and some can win less. All right? President Carter's high-profile missions to, as you remember, first in North Korea, then Haiti, then Bosnia-Herzegovina, and now Sudan, have helped to pave the way for a more peaceful and stable world. Now, I want to tell you a little secret that he uses. But first of all, let me just mention that as an aside, as you know, Carter was a square dancer, perhaps still is somewhat, at least he has it at heart. And maybe some of the know-how may have resulted from his experience in square dancing. Anyway, taking a page from Carter's notebook, we find the words that helped him produce remarkable results. Now, you won't see these in the newspaper, but here's what I read a report on Carter right from Atlanta, Georgia, right from his headquarters, and this is what I found out. These are the same words that the Chinese have cherished for generations. Listen to this. 5 words. Let nobody lose face. Let nobody lose face. You know, we found the same thing true when we went to China. We went to China, and our sharp agency representative told us, when you get that Chinese guide, and he's going to stay with you for all 3 weeks that you're over there, he said, never let him lose face. But what you do is this. If somebody, let's say, loses a bag, and you have to check bags all the time, as you know, on these tours. If somebody loses a bag, go to that guide and say to him, you know, I'll lose face and the pride of my group unless we can solve this problem and get that bag back. He said, never go to that guide and say, hey, you got to help me. Oh, man, you got to hurry and get this thing done. We've got to get that bag. If you do that, the Chinese guide tradition, this has happened, will disappear, and you won't see him for hours and hours. Finally, he may come back and help you. But I saw this happen. The minute you told him, I'm going to lose face if you don't help me find it, could you possibly help? Because just the same as Jim said, it's the kind of wording you use. And man, he was so fast, went to solve that problem so fast, because he didn't want me to lose face with the group. You see, the same trick, the same thing that Carter has used again and again with these international situations. Now, I want to just go on a little bit, and I'm almost out of time. Psychiatrists told me that all of us who work beneficently, wow, can't even get around that word, beneficently, let's say well, with people need to adopt a holistic approach. I mean, these psychiatrists, you know what they talk. Holistic approach in our dealings. We must look at all sides of human behavior. Our role as group mediator leaders demands acute perception of all human qualities and traits of our group. Consider physical capabilities, mental capabilities, cultural background, a whole lot of things. And then also make a good profile of the person that you're dealing with or the group that you're dealing with. Is the problem based somewhat on fear, on anticipation, on pent-up anger, on inflated ego, worry, negativism? Now you can go on and on. There's a lot of other words that this guy gave me that you got to look at. And this is just helping us to get a little sharper with dealings with some of the problems there. And I think this is good advice. And I think you've got that all in the outline, so I won't go any further on that. But I want to say this, that how good are we at recognizing these traits? Can we do it? I got a first nudge. Thank you, sir. Charles Darwin said, many of the features of emotional expression, whether observed individually or in a group, are inherited patterns that revert back to deep-seated survival tendencies. We won't go into that anymore because I'm almost out of time. Did you know the difference between a pessimist and an optimist? This is looking at people and finding out a little bit about people just by observation. I always look around to the group before I say this. You know that a pessimist is a guy who wears both suspenders and a belt. Okay? Don't look to the left or right. Nobody's like that here as I can see. But gals, don't you laugh now, because an optimist is a girl who thinks a bulge is a curve. Okay? All right, think about that. And don't look to the left or right. Wouldn't it be great if we could take certain qualities from certain groups and use them to our benefit. From children, wouldn't it be wonderful with that to take, for the ideal person, take that innocence, that trust, that desire to play, non-judgmental qualities and so forth. From women, wouldn't it be great if we could take emotions close to the surface, readiness to love, tendency towards peace and so forth, take from them those qualities. And from men, a little bit of aggression but controlled, gregarious nature, desire to explore, and put these all together for the ideal person. We can't do that, of course, but we do need to recognize those qualities that are so important. I'm going to finalize this now with just in my final paragraph. I believe that callers can and should be key facilitators to keep peace and harmony in the club setting. Just using good common sense in the way we deal with people can make a difference. Know your people. Assess their wants and needs. Study human relations. Ask what is best for square dancing. Always ask that question. What is best for square dancing? Observe the golden rule. Encourage face-to-face encounters with you as an unofficial mediator, and this works better with long-distance disagreements or short-range ones, long-range ones, whatever. Finally, plant your feet firmly on issues that matter. Grow thick skin, we need that, against barbs and brickbats. Broaden your shoulders. Speak a good line. Sprinkle with humor. Face issues squarely, and have the guts to move toward goals that you know are right. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions or comments you'd like to make, or maybe a situation that you might like the group here to discuss or address? Anybody? Any callers have any ideas? Mel, how are things going with the National, 44th National? You're right. Good, you're looking forward to the good thing. Is there anything in here that you want to bring up amongst the group, or is there anything that needs to be addressed? You can use the microphone back there if you want. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but anybody else with your groups regarding your group leaders or square dance leaders or the caller associations?
I am Mel Estes from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I'm vice chairman of Square Programming at the National coming up in Birmingham, and I must be very careful in what I say because we have the president of the NEC sitting right here listening to me. But we don't have nearly as many people registered as we would like to have. We only have, I think that the last count I had somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 or 11,000, and as you know, we need many, many more than that. But work is progressing very rapidly. We're looking forward to having a good convention. We've got one of the best facilities in the country for having the convention. We've got some drawbacks, as any place would have. Our parking is not exactly what we'd like it to be. But if you'll come on down to our convention in June, we people in Alabama who are trying our best to put on a good convention, we'll treat you so many ways you'll have to like some of them. We look forward to having you come down.
Very well put, Mel. Well put. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Anybody else have any comments? Have any of you heard people presentations or heard anything about people skills or have been involved in incidences that would be helpful to our fellow callers or other callers here? Also, we have callers picking up the tape, so if there's anything that you might help, an incident that may have occurred that maybe was handled in such a way that could be passed on to the callers here at this session, it would be most helpful. Grace? Thank you.
I'm Grace Wheatley from Gallatin, New Mexico, and we just had a very positive session for the women in calling, and we are heading in a very positive direction with many of the attributes that these gentlemen have just said in their presentation, with goals of being success and being a contribution and a part of Square Dance Calling and CALLERLAB.
Great, very good, Grace. Very good. Grace, as she said, is the new chairman of the Women in Calling Committee, and I think that committee is trying to isolate the women in calling less and trying to include them as a body of callers, because they are indeed
terrific part of our activity, and I think we have to recognize them as callers and not isolate them into their own sessions. And so I'm pleased about that. Very good, Grace. Thank you. Anybody else involved? Is anybody here a president, vice president, or any officer in a local caller association? Anybody? Raise your hand. Do you have programs regularly at your caller associations? Do you? Would you like to share anything with the rest of the group regarding any of the programs that you might be or have currently or have recently done at your callers associations that might have something to do with the realm of people skills? You think of anything? Here we go. Terrific.
I'm Bob Worley, Virginia Beach, Virginia. I'm the president of the State Callers Association and the Local Callers Association. Yeah. One of the things that we're trying to do is to get square dancing into schools, and we have an active program. We're working on this. Deck is heading up the committee that's working on it, and it's not an easy thing to do because of the different age groups and etc. We started out with about the third grade, teaching them circle dances and the patty cake dances and this type of stuff. And we hope that this is going to move right on into the middle school and the high school area, and we're going to grow some square dancers out of this.
Great, very good, very good. Yes, next.
Hi, I'm Norm Munya from Rhode Island. I'm president of the Narragansett Callers Association. We have done leaderships at Narragansett Callers, and it was a caller and partner leadership, and it was a personal growth type leadership. Okay, not so much square dancing. It was involved a little. It was touched because it was a subject, but it was really a personal, and I think a lot of the callers in the area really benefited from it. And if callers associations are interested in that and they want to rate me, I have the information of the people who did it, and they were phenomenal at what they did.
Can you go ahead and repeat your name again?
Sure. Norm Munya, and I'm from Rhode Island.
Rhode Island, and you spell your name for the tape, too.
Okay, Meunier. Okay. My address is P.O. Box 1027, Mapleville, Rhode Island.
Terrific. And you have that information that if other callers associations
I have
are
it
interested?
At home, yeah.
Excellent, excellent. You had a format that was set up ahead of time, and
it was a format that was set up ahead of time. We had professionals actually brought in, and this professional is a square dance caller and his wife, so he knows very well what we do and what we need, and it was an excellent program.
Very good.
Matter of fact, I believe the New England Square and Round Dance Foundation used these people as a leadership in that area.
I think that information would be very helpful for Stan and his committee to pass along to other associations for the link.
You can give me your business card. That'd be great. Okay. I don't want to. I was just going to add something on a different subject. So maybe we better take this person first.
Yeah, I was just going to say anything we can share. Anything, by the way, just that your caller association is doing that you found successful. If you can, just as another note here, get that information to Stan. It's perfect for the link. That paper was designed so that callers associations could share their successful programs with each other and improve the programs of other associations as well. So thank you. We'd love to have that shared. Yes.
I'm Bruce Simpers. I'm president of the Square Dance Leaders of the Baltimore area, and we've had two initiatives. One was to get Square Dancing the Maryland Folk Dance, which helped in publicity to let people know about square dancing. But the second thing that we've done that's even proved more is we've gotten into square dance jackets. We've gotten into the baseball type jackets with Maryland, the state outline, and then square dancer under it. The Dancers Association did that, and now the callers have gone to even to the extent of having caller or cure below that. So, and then we can have the person's name embroidered on the front. So it's a good publicity. Anytime they're out, people are often asked them about it.
Great publicity idea and increase our exposure. You know, it's interesting though, and because we've discussed a similar type of a thing at the with CALLERLAB, and very often when someone is approached with a jacket on, the way they speak to the people that approach them and the way the people type skills that they use are critical to either getting those people to become part of them or not. And I find even when we as square dancers walk into a restaurant and we're all in our square dance gear and you get the oohs and the ahs and the people saying various comments, some square dancers will put these people off right away, and other people will seize it as an opportunity to walk to their table and say, hi, hey, we just had a great time tonight. You guys really missed out. So I think the way we handle ourselves, and maybe as an aside, it's possible to have a little page that could go with these jackets that would tell them, as when they wear this jacket, that they're setting an example to square dancers, and that the way they talk to other people and the way they seize that opportunity to be friendly, to be courteous, to tell about what's going on, to tell about how much fun we have. And did you know that the American Heart Association promotes our activity because it's so good for your heart? And those kind of things, I think the image that we present as individual square dancers can be real positive. Mitch?
One thing I forgot to add earlier, on the recruiting end of the people skills, is also be careful of the people you're using when you go out and you're recruiting for people. You take the wrong people with you with the wrong skills, that's as bad. Like Mike's talking exactly in the restaurant. You, as a caller, if you go out for coffee after, you can see who you want in the malls with you. The lady that gets indignant because someone made a ooh about her dress probably is not very good to be in a shopping mall, but the person that walks right over to the table and starts telling them about it, that's who you want. That's exactly the skill you're looking for. So, you want to?
Yeah, this is just a little thing for you to think about. Sometimes at seminars, if we have 2 or 3 hours to work with a group, either leadership seminars or caller seminars, sometimes we do a little exercise, and you might think about this. We take little groups and put them off here and here and here, and then we give them a problem. And here's one problem, for instance. I have a whole list of these things, but it just occurred to me. One problem is 6 months from now, your group, your club has said you're fired as a caller. You're no longer a caller. Meanwhile, you've set aside the dates for all the next year that you plan to be at that club. You've turned down many jobs that you could have put in there. What do you do as a caller? Okay, that's one to wrestle with. We haven't got time to deal with these things. It's kind of fun, though, to take a group of callers and ask that and then find out the answers. It's really fun. And the other one is, just one other one, would be a guy that's been heavily drinking comes to your dance that night. And you've already heard from several people rushing up to you and say, he can't even do a grand right and left property, you got to get rid of him. What do you do with that guy? Who does it? Is it you as the caller? Is it the club president? And let me just tell you this. Never do anything alone by yourself with a problem like that. Always there must be more than one person. And I'd say, in this case, it would certainly be on a very quiet level, around and around somewhere else. You would be talking to that guy with the club president or some representative of that club. And I didn't mean to give you the answer, but certainly that's the beginning of guidelines that we need to follow in any type of problem that we may have in the club. And it's fun to wrestle with these sometimes. We haven't got time to do it now, but I just wanted to throw that out for thought.
Stan, that's a good point. Very often we're confronted with problems that require people skills immediately, and by far the biggest thing is the way we react to that problem is far more important sometimes on how than actually solving it, but it's real critical, and I think that's a great exercise for caller associations, and as Mitch said, be cool, don't be a fool, right. But I think if you can have these exercises ahead of time, this is a great idea, to be able to wrestle with things or maybe bring things to the group that has occurred and see how they would handle them. I think it helps you as a caller later on down the line or as a square dance leader on how to handle those things. So I think it's terrific. I believe we're just about out of time here. We're going to finish up and close. If anybody has any closing comments, I invite you to make them. I once again would like to thank all of you for being down here in a little bit warmer than usual room and for staying with us. This is the last main session time in our convention. We have the Birds of a Feather sessions coming up here at 5 o'clock. Then at 6 begins the social hour. We'll have dinner, I believe, at 7, and then the awards banquet afterwards. And we'd like to thank you for attending the convention and for being part of CALLERLAB. Thank you very much.